right, good afternoon. We have a special guest. He's a historian. He wrote this great book right here, talking about the Garifunas. And I want to basically ask him to introduce himself to the people who don't know who he is. Kebawagiatate bem katabula.
Okay, what made? Um, my name is Andoni Castillo Perez. I'm a Garifuna activist and historian. I was born in Honduras village. So since when I was younger, I have been questioning the Garifuna history. So I have been doing research to find out the reality of the Garifuna people. So I'm an anthropologist as well, writer. So I have been published here about 4 books already. So that's this kind of job I has been doing to make a great contribution with research of the history of the Garifuna people.
Okay. What part of village you come from Honduras?
I was born in Gusunogati. Gusunogati is the name of the village in Honduras, located in the north of Honduras. This is most of the, there is around 10 Garifuna villages with 5,000, 7,000, and 10,000 people living in each village. And there is no electricity in those villages. So the Garifuna preserve their culture and their language. Like me, when I was 9 years old, 10 years old, even 11 years old, I didn't speak Spanish. So basically in my village, we learn Spanish as a second language in schools. So 100% of the population, they speak Garifuna as a first language. Children, men and women, everybody.
That's great.
Okay. And how old were you when you started questioning the story of the Garifuna? What was true and what was not true?
Basically,
how old were you when you started?
Basically, I find out that most of the Western historian has been writing about us. They deny so many reality related to the Garifuna people. So I'm decide to do my own research and questioning so many things, so many information that has been wrote from their vision, from the colonization vision. So we decide to discolonize that history that we can show the reality to our community.
Okay, and in your investigation, or what was your conclusion? What you came up with? First, where did the Garifuna come from? Where do we come from?
Basically, what we read from the Western historian, they told us that Garifuna had descendants from the chief who naufragó.
The shipwreck.
The shipwreck in the island of St. Vincent in the Caribbean in 1335. And those African enslaves, they mixed with the indigenous people in St. Vincent and made up Garifuna people by the time. But when I do my research here in British National Archive and the French National Archive, I found 7 different dates from that shipwreck. I found 1635. I found 1667, 1655, 1612, 1511, and 1668. So that is impossible that seven type of date explain according to the chronicle that the shipwreck had an accident in the island of San Vincent. So there were so many questions to ask about it. So I'm decided to go a little bit more deeper after read the book from Ivan Sertima, They Came Before Columbus, who explained that African explorers in America before Columbus. So I'm decided to do the research to find the language that the explorers was speaking in that time. That was a Bambara, Soninke, Malinke. That's a Malian's language. So I had a dictionary, I had a Mande dictionary in 3 languages, which is Bambara, Soninke, and Malinke. So I'm decided to compare in search if I can find some words related to the Garifuna language today. So right now I have around 300 words in the Mande language. So in that book, Insurrectional Resistance of the Garifuna Revolution, there is around 45 words that I share with the readers to understand that a lot of evidence that I found that is probably that the Garifuna people are descendants from the African explorers who arrived to the America in 200 years before Columbus.
Okay, so so the Garifuna are descended from Mande or the Mali Empire, or what's your view on that?
I believe the Garifuna people are descended from the Mali Empire, and according to the history, Kankan Mansa Musa, the king Mansa Musa, he sent explorers from Africa. Those explorers arrived to America and the Caribbean 200 years ago. Then I proved that information because I found some cultures in Malian culture and Bambara culture and the language in the Garifuna language. Even Malians people in that time, they was practicing Islam as a religion. So there is some attitude in the Garifuna culture that is linked with Islam.
Okay, okay. And how come the Garifuna of today they're not Islam like the people in Mali? Because the people in Mali were all Islamic people, but the Garifuna today, they're not they don't follow that religion per se.
It's so many years has been passed. We're talking about centuries. So in that time, in that time in the Malian Empire, it's not everybody was practicing Islam. There was all the language, there was all the culture, there was all the spiritual religion in Africa. So basically, when Garifuna people arrived 200 years before Columbus to the Caribbean, they have a knowledge about Islam, but by the time from the 1311 to 1675 or 1797, when Garifuna people were banished to Honduras, Central America, there was so many generation passed, and Garifuna also built a relation with the indigenous population in the Caribbean and the influence of the French colony and English colony. So by the time people were changed, they changed their culture and the vision, how to find out themselves, how to live themselves in order to survive of the colonization in the island of St. Vincent.
Okay. Were the Garifunas ever enslaved? Were they slaves, or in St. Vincent or from Africa, were they ever slaves?
Garifuna is not descendants from the African slaves. Garifuna people never been submitted to be slaves. I have a trait, the agreement that the Garifuna people signed in the island of St. Vincent in 1660. I found this document here in British National Archive. That is impossible if the Garifuna are descendant from the enslaved African, from the shipwreck in 1335. How comes 30 years later they signed the agreement with the British and French during the slavery time? That is impossible. That community have to be established long time ago in the island before European arrived. On the other hand, I found more information in French National Archive. The French described that when they arrived to the island of St. Vincent for the first time in 1625, they found two different people. They talk about the Arawaks people that was living in the island. They talk about Garinagu people who were living in the island as well. We're talking about 1625. So French decide to submit Garinagu people, Garifuna people, to be slaves because they saw them as a Black people. So according to the French Chronicle, they say that that was a thanks God that they already had Africans in that place, and it is a blessing for the king of king of French. They already have slaves, so it's not going to be necessarily to bring slavery from Africa, slave from Africa. So Garinagu people, they was already organized. So there was a fighting between 1628 until 1635. So because French decide to take over their land, and they have a resistance and they fight against French. So those information, I have that information from the Chronicle, from the French National Archive. So it is impossible. The European, he wrote that he do recognize that the Garifuna people inhabited the island of St. Vincent before them arrived to the Caribbean.
Okay, and how many wars was it between the Garifuna and the Europeans? How many wars were there?
There was there were so many. There was so many because the Garinagu people is not only was living in St. Vincent. There was a living Dominica, Martinica, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago. There was indigenous people all over that island, and the Garinagu was living, some of the Garifuna people was living in the island as well. So I had a name in the Garifuna of Martinica, St. Lucia, Dominica. There is a name in the Garifuna. The French recognized those islands as a center of the Carib nation. That's what they call them. So so Garifuna people organized alliances between the indigenous people in that island to fight against the French and the English in order to defend their islands.
Oh, okay. You got anything, Miles?
Yeah, so I wanna just clarify. So your source of information was from the French archives and the archives of the British National Archive, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And the king. So we just back to Mali for a second. The king who first sent the Garinagu to the Caribbean islands. What was his name again?
He was Mansa Musa Abubakari II.
Abubakari II. Okay, okay. That's
Yeah.
what's up. So they were basically explorers, and they've been there for hundreds of years before even Christopher Columbus set foot in the area.
Exactly. There was explorers. There was explorers. Then according to the information that we found in the University of Timbuktu in Mali, that explorers leave Mali, but they never return. They never return to Africa. So, but today, because the evidence, we found that African people, they established in the Americas long time before Columbus, and had a connection with the indigenous population, and some linguistic, like Leo Werner found so many words, African words in the indigenous language. So that that's the evidence who described that possibility that the African had a contact with the indigenous population in America long before Columbus.
Wow, that's amazing. So what's the name of your book? I couldn't see the title. Could you show us the book and what's the name of it? I can't see the title. What's the title?
Is the
Insurrectional Resistance. Okay. Of the Garifuna Revolution. Okay.
Yeah.
The chosen people of Urume. Okay, I have so how did the Garifuna lose, and why did they get exiled instead of being all killed in St. Vincent? Kalawago hona hay kalawago mafuru hoba isunga ina gunyi la diga ba hona hani hona hani giga ha yaga tendura kate wa mafa bani elwe kalawago hona haba hona nege. Why would they exile from?
La digale aba heregu Garinagu. Garinagu people has a long resistance. We're talking about from 1635, 1636 until 1797. During that time, there was a slavery time in American continent and the whole Caribbean, no? So Garinagu people organized to resist, but they have alliances as well with French to fight against the British. So Garinagu people incorporate most of the enslaved African from any other island to be part of the army. So so British he can achieve what he wants from slavery in the Caribbean because the resistance of the Garinagu people. Then I have agreement as well. I found the agreement in British National Archive that the Garifuna people signed with the British in 1773 before independence of United States of America. And the British also recognized that the revolutionary in the United States, they do recognize the Garifuna Revolution in the Caribbean and the agreements that the Garifuna people signed with the English in 1773, before the independence of the United States, before the independence of Asia. So some historians or some people, even in the documents that I found in the House of Commons here in London and in British Parliament, there are so many documents who recognize that the Garinagu people, there was the first country independence in that region as an African descendant. So there is a very important to publish all the information to recognize how was the revolution made up by organized by the Garifuna people in the Caribbean. And because it's that, Garifuna people had a connection to fight against evolution of the slavery in the Caribbean as well.
So the agreement that you speak of, the British agreement, did the agreement entail? Was it about to stop fighting the war, or was that at the point when the Garifuna were banished to Honduras? This British agreement.
The British agreement described to divide the territory of the Garinagu people as a country, and divide the territory of them. So there was something very interesting because they signed the agreement to divide the territory. This is territory of the Garinagu people, and this is belong to us. But in the British territory, there was an enslaved African. So that enslaved African run to the place when the Garinagu people were living in peace. So that and British, they get mad. They get mad when those things happen. So the Black people was watching how they are people like them. They are free in the other part of the island. Mm-hmm. So esta gente comenzaron a rebelarse en contra de los británicos, lida haleharini, los guanyeri la Garinagu, lida gyaba obu, atigin le habuserun lida habagari so aba ay bagulu nyehi, los aba hayevi Garinagu aba hakahabu duhong, lo reclutar hamania aba hanya guhong lebuna tila here gu logu hani freedom.
Yeah. So basically, the treaty entailed they would to try to divide the two territories. The British on one side, but with the British, they also had enslaved Africans, and in the other territory they had the Garifuna. The Garifuna were free, So the treaty was, you guys live in peace in your side, we live in peace in our side. But the enslaved Africans that were in with the British, they saw that how these other Africans are living free, they got their own land on the other side. You know, they started questioning it, and a lot of the Africans that was with the British, they will try to escape and flee, and they will go to where the Garifuna people were to try for protection. And then the British will get upset and pissed off and stuff like that. That a lot of Africans will go to. You know, basically, it was bad for business to see free Africans on the other side, and it almost started a revolt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like almost started a revolt. That's what happened. From my understanding, what he was saying right now.
Okay. So what was the Garifuna response when an African would enter their land? You know, running from the British side over to them. What did the Garifuna do with them?
Ellos a bajar Gdenia para que sea parte de su ejército y lo reclutaron y le prometieron vivir en paz para declarar la guerra a los británicos para expulsarlo de la isla.
Yeah, so they will take him to the island. They'll be like, well, they'll make him part of the militia, part of the Garifuna army, and they'll be like, you guys are free. Nothing will happen to you. Now let's join together so we could kick out the British from our island. So every African that will escape, the Garifuna will put him in their army, and they will keep him there, and then they'll promise them freedom.
Okay. Okay, so the Garifuna were never a part of the enslavement of Africans.
No, because they was established in the island, and then signed so many agreements with the French and the British. Mm-hmm. That is gonna be impossible if the Garinagu is a African enslaves who was brought to the island as a slavery, then later on is sitting with the British and the French signing agreement. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Isn't it?
Yeah. So first, the Garifuna fought the French first, and you guys defeated them, and then ended up joining with the French to fight against the British?
Yes. Because Garinagu recognized the French. It was an enemy with the British. There was a fight in the island. Which one? He won Dominica, San Lucia, Martinica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, all the islands around. And Garinagu people was in the middle. So the French, he was more intelligent. He decided to make alliances with the Garinagu people against British.
That's nice.
So French start to provide weapon to the Garinagu people to fight against British. Yeah.
That's nice. That's interesting. Okay, did you ever think about, because there's a lot of misinformation about the Garifuna online, if you look online and things like that. Like you said, the first thing you see is they were descendants from slaves, or, you know, that shipwrecked onto the island. It's like, have you ever thought about trying to combat that information with Wikipedia? Because Wikipedia, everybody thinks Wikipedia has the truth, you know, of everything. And have you ever thought about, you know, writing an article for Wikipedia and trying to edit that information?
Yes, I've been thinking about it. But I do believe that the Garinagu people have to recognize first that we have to rewrite our history, that we have to discolonize our history. I believe the first step is the Garinagu people to recognize that that you already tell me right now there is so many misunderstanding in the history that we need to clear it. So in the second step is to start writing about it, is to start talking about it, to change the colonization vision about our history. And it's not begin just like that, you know. It's gonna be my attitude and your attitude is gonna be different. My attitude gonna be different if the history tell me that I'm descending from the king, that I'm descending from the majestic African civilization. My attitude as a Garifuna is gonna be a difference. If they tell me that I'm descendant from the enslaved African and mixed with the indigenous people, that is your vision how to understand the world is gonna be totally different.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want to change right now. We want to change that. We want to let the Garinagu people understand that we are descending from the kingdom, the African kingdom, who established in that island long time ago. Even right now, I was talking about it. I was talking to Angel because I asked about some information from French National Archive. They sent that information to me a couple of weeks ago. They not in that information. The person who wrote that information is a French in 1625. He wrote that information, and he described in that information that the Garinagu people tell them that their ancestor arrived in the boat, in the ship. He said from Ethiopia. It's an Ethiopian who arrived in the ship to the island. So so the writer say that it's not slavery, it's not slave people, it's not African slave, but he coming from Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the name, that was the name of the Africa in that time,
yes,
the whole continent.
Yes.
So when I saw that information, because it was in French, so I'm translated to English and Spanish to make understand. So the Garinagu people describe him, or they told him that their ancestor arrived in the ship to the island.
Explorers.
So, and the same person in that chronicle, he said that there was a two population in the island, Arawak people and the Garinagu people. And later English called them Black Caribs.
Right.
Yeah, to separate Arawak and the Garinagu, they call Arawak yellow Carib and red Caribs. And they call Garinagu people the Black Caribs because there was a black skin.
Okay, and that makes a lot of sense because I always wondered why they had so many distinctions for people in the Caribbean. But it makes sense though, because they have to separate, they have to identify and say, okay, these are the Garifuna who were here first. You know what I mean? Who came from Africa, and then here are the indigenous people of that land, and they had to separate that in order for themselves to understand it. And it ended up in the future, it creates a lot of division between the Africans there, though. You know what I mean? By separating with these different names. But I understand why they had to make that distinction now.
Exactly. I found in the chronicle, I found around 7 or 8 different names how they call Garifuna. Yeah. They call them slave of the Arawaks. They call them ethnic people. They call them the Black Caribs, Kalinagu, Garinagu, Kalipuna. They call them by 8 different names. I'm talking about the same community, the same people. Arianga Lubra, tida la dugume to tachulubo el parlamento lani ubole parlamento británico arianga tu lida tratado le que los garinagos son nativos de la isla, habla de nativo de la isla de San Vicente.
Yeah, and in one of these in the British Museum Parliament, it says that the Garifuna are also native from Saint Vincent, from the island of Saint Vincent. That's what that treaty. He gets all his information from. It's always mind-boggling me. Like our information, our story, they hold the true story about who we are. Like in French, in the British Museum, you find our true story there. But we as a Garifuna or as people, same thing as Africans, you want to know your story, you got to go to the Pope, like you got to go to Alexandria, you got to go there. They hold our story, right. But they feed us different stories and different lies, but they got the true story. That's what he gets all his information from. They got all those stories there about who we really are,
And Andoni, have you had any difficulty obtaining this information? Like, have people given you any resistance in France or in Britain in you trying to get this information about your people?
None at all. None at all. I went to British National Archive. Then my ancestor was with me as well, right? I wasn't by myself. I wasn't by myself. Then I can tell you some. When I'm going to British National Archive, it's like somebody tell me, have a look at this book, have a look at this one, have a look at the information. I go right through to the information that I want. Even for the first place, I was surprised, and I even imagine the revolution that my people done in the island of San Vincent. So today I do understand why they banish it from their own island to the Roatan, Honduras. It's not just like that. There was a great people. There was a big resistance. Yeah. So British, he can be able to make his purpose of the slavery in the Caribbean with the Garinagu there. So that's why he decided to banish it. Another important issue is like before the signed agreement in 1773 in the island of San Vincent, there was a big debate, about 4 months debate in British Parliament about the Garifuna people. There was an opposition. There was opposition party against why they have to destroy those people. So I had a document when the British Empire ordered to destroy the Garinagu people from the island of San Vincent, to kill them at all. So I have that document. There is so many information from the British Parliament, from the newspaper in that time, publishing information about what to do with the Garinagu people. My question is today, how were important those people to be part of the debate between 4 months in the British Parliament? Exactly. In that time, we're talking about slavery time, between 1770, 1773. There was a slavery time.
So it shows that the Garifuna had power at the time.
Exactly.
And it's the reason why they had to have such a large debate, because
exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
And the plantation owner begged to the British Empire to destroy those people because they can do nothing in the Caribbean during the Garifuna Revolution there. There was a big revolution. There was a big revolution. That's why they signed the agreement with them in 1773, before independence of the United States. That's me. One day the world have to recognize that there was the nation who was established in the Americas, even before the independence of the United States.
Okay.
Kasawago Hayeda, Kalawag Hanga, what like a phone bark and naufragón barco, Kalawago Hayeda, Kalawag Ligelo Hanga Honsungige. I asked them, why did they lie to us? Why did they tell us about slave ship? Why did they fed us that lie to this day? It's still going on.
El europeo jamás aceptaría de que encontró una civilización africana que habitaba en las Américas. Acuérdese que estaba el eurocentrismo. Entonces ellos quieren colocarse como el centro de la civilización del mundo. Arianga Belugi luego continuó.
Yeah, so basically, you know that a lot of the Europeans, they can't accept that there was this great civilization in Honduras and St. Vincent ran by these Africans. They can never accept that, so they make up lies. Same thing in Kemet in Egypt. They couldn't when they first showed up. When they first showed up there, they couldn't understand why this place was so civilized and why it was something that they wasn't used to. So they stopped making up lies to try to demean all the great things that these Africans have made. They do the same thing here with all the inventions that they stolen. So they can never give African American or black man all that credit for everything. So they made up lies that it was a slave. It was a boat full of slaves that ended up being shipwrecked. Remember, he said they couldn't even make up their mind. They had like 8 days. They had 8 different dates of this so-called shipwreck. They had 8 different dates, and he found those dates in the archive. They had different dates they couldn't make up their mind on the lie of the lie. So they had different dates. You know, that's why they made up that lie about the shipwreck.
Exactly, and another thing also, you can control people from their history. You know, it's easy to control people from their history.
I agree.
So what they done to us, just to made up the history from their point of view, that we can believe.
It's for the exact same reason that you described. Is because if you tell a child or a person the history of, oh, you came from a great civilization in Africa and you were explorers that arrived there well before any European ever did, or you tell them you came off a slave ship, you know what I mean? It's all about the perception of the mind.
Exactly.
And you know, and how it affects the mind and the person views themselves. So this is why they've created all of the lies that they do about Africans in Africa, the Garifunas, and also African Americans.
Yes.
Yeah, just remember the letter that the guy from Belgium, the letter that he wrote when he started killing all those Africans in Africa. Remember, he wrote a letter. The letter was saying,
Leopold or something like that.
Yeah, Leopold. He wrote a letter, and the letter, you could look up the letter online. It says, basically, don't tell these people where they come from. Don't tell them don't tell them they come from kings and queens, because if they know that, they're gonna end up fighting. So you gotta tell them they're slaves and take away their gods and take away their religion. They don't let them talk about their religion. Like, that's what they do. They do the same thing here in America. Like when the slaves were here in America, they told them the same thing. Don't tell these people where they come from. Tell them they come from slaves. So it don't give them that inspiration to revolt or to fight. So if somebody tells you, you come from kings and queens and you come from a great empire, you'll feel great and you'll want to fight back. But if they tell you people were nobody, you guys come from slaves, you guys were, because they told me that when I first came from Honduras, when I went to school, because they teach you that in school. oh yeah, you know, you come from nothing. You come from slavery. You know what I mean? And as a kid, how does that make you feel? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's like this is my personal opinion, but this is what I think why the United Nations was created. Because you have all the countries in the world united in one purpose. What else do they do? What does the United Nations actually stand for if you look at them? And what I believe is the United Nations, the reason why it was first formed was to be united in creating the lie that could be told about Africans. And it was all of these countries coming together to say, okay, we have to all get our lie together. And we have to get and figure out how we can teach in our educational systems and follow a system of trying to keep the Africans around the world down. Because to me, I see no other purpose for the United Nations in the world, because they're constantly fighting each other in wars. So what are you united about? And I think they're united about making sure that the lie stays told.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened, because they wrote everything about us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they write everything about us, but they made a mistake. They made a mistake because they wrote so many information. Mm-hmm. They hide it in British National Archive, in French National Archive, and people like me, my ancestor was with me, and they say to me, "The information is right there, brother. Go over there."
And I like how you say the ancestors led you there. You know what I mean? I like how you say that, man. The ancestors brought you there. Was like, look at this, and guided.
Exactly. Go over there. Information is right there, and to open eyes to our people. So that's the job. That's the job. We have to do it. I say to Enyo that information we need to do documentary with that information, because the Garinagu people right now are sleeping. Garinagu people, they make them sleep with that history that have been teach us from long time ago. We're talking about 224 years ago. How many generations? So we going to school in Central America, in the Garifuna diaspora in Central America. We don't learn nothing about ourselves. We'll learn all the time about somebody else. So we don't know nothing about ourselves. So we need to wake up, because my people are sleeping. I know that. It's not everybody who's gonna understand my book. Some of the people who read that book, they may confuse. So people who already read this book, my community right now is in silence. It's like I'm shocked and say, wow, what's going on here? Where this story come from? Because what we learn already, what we accept already, is the history that the Western historian has been telling us. Today, we are in the other position to rewrite, the position to discolonize our history. So then we need a team. We need a team to work together.
Yata badume hawama Rubengu musu dumure luego satu ye barauda Dubai sungige ha home grige ha ibide by home kate la gige ha. Can you tell us a little bit about who Satuye was and his wife Barauda and Dubai, for those people who didn't know them, and for who didn't know them?
Okay. Satuye lege me habu to Garinago.
Satuye was a leader. Yeah.
Yeah. Kaisir the Laniway yo Barauda.
And Barauda was also a leader of wife and husband.
Satuye ariangati menge ariangati menge France.
Yes, Satuye spoke he spoke English, he spoke French, and he also spoke Garifuna. He spoke those 3 different languages.
Era un estratega militar y gran negociador. por el territorio de su pueblo.
He was a great military leader, strategist, and great thinker when it came to like battle and stuff like that, to be able to fight for the Garifuna territory, for their land.
La corona británica ordenó su asesinato. Mafaru hamuti taragwe fue una orden. Lu hafarune.
Yeah.
Lu hedebili du garinago.
Yeah, the British had an order to kill them. They couldn't kill him that way. And they figured, let's kill him in order to weaken the Garifuna militia, to weaken the Garifuna, to try to, that it was an order. They didn't kill him just like that. It was an order from the British to be able to kill him, because he was rallying the Garifuna in war, and also in to try to defend their land in general. Yeah,
Alexander Late assassinated Chatouillet in the island of St. Vincent. Alexander Late is Scottish. A couple of years ago, the University of Edinburgh in Scotland recognized that Alexander Late assassinated Garifuna leader in the island of St. Vincent.
And
in 1996, a British Army captured 416 Garinagu people, and they brought as a prisoner of war to England. So those people established here as a prisoner over 3 years and 4 years in Portchester prison. It's not that far from here, from London.
Oh, okay. So
What year was that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
1996, before banishment to Roatan.
1896?
Sorry, 1796.
Oh, okay. Wow. So they how did they capture them again? They captured their ship and then brought them to England?
They was in the war. So
prisoners of war. Okay.
So English army get into the village of the Garifuna in St. Vincent and captures soldiers, women and children, and brought them in the ship from the island of St. Vincent to England.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they took them prisoners of war, and the other ones they send them to Honduras. So biame abahanugu England abagan hona hana aba indure dia.
Pero lubage hona hania lu rubado baruja mutia como prisionero de guerra lu nyahu lu alundo. He bihada ge hilagotia arianga balu yindu na lida flash ligia que sandinani hahari wagubri.
Yeah, so before they send them to Roatan, after when they defeated, they send them to British as prisoners of war. They send them. They stay there for a couple of months and stuff like that, and then they send them to Roatan. A lot of them died during their voyages to Honduras. Starvation. They didn't eat. A lot of them didn't survive. He actually went to the museum, the prison there in London, where the Garifuna were captured, and a lot of them died in that prison. And he said that he could feel the spirit of our ancestors. He actually put him to tears when he was in there.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, there is a document here about it. There is a document here about even the list of the 416 Garinagu people who was arrived to Portsmouth Harbor. They arrived to Portsmouth Harbor. The prison is still there. Today is an old building. So, but I can feel the soul of my ancestor anytime I go over there. All the information is there. Even Marin Perez, he was a Garifuna leader. He was a military leader. Marin Perez arrived here with his wife and his children. There was a capture in the island of San Vincent.
So when they banished the people to Honduras, who had control of Honduras at the time? You know, what country had control of Honduras?
There was no Honduras in that time. There was the name Honduras wasn't exist in that time.
Okay.
That island, Roatán Island, there was a divide. One belonged to British Empire, one belonged to Spanish Empire. So British know about the island because they already have a African enslaved in the island. Okay. You know, so the descendants of the African enslaved is still living in the island today.
Okay.
That means there was black people living in the island as slaves of the British. So British decide to brought the Garinagu, took the Garinagu to the island because they don't want ever to come back to the island of San Vincent, because there was the island of Granada close to San Vincent. There was Dominica, there was San Lucia, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago. So they should decide to took them to one of those islands, but the British want and a plantation company in the slave zone, they want to spread out those people. They want to destroy that community, that people, because without them in the island there is no peace, according to them. So that's why they send them too far across the ocean to Central America, to Roatán, that they're not gonna have any option to come back to the island and fight for their territory. So when they arrived there in 1797, there was they arrived to the island, but there was no Honduras independence in that time until 1810, 1815. They start revolution in Honduras to be independent from the Spanish colony. So the Garinagu people were part of the army as well, because Francisco Morazan, he was the delivery in that time to liberate Central America from a Spanish colony. So he knew about the Garinagu people revolution, the Garinagu people in the island of San Vincent. So he incorporated Garinagu in the army of the Central American Republic. So Garinagu people fight against Spanish to be part of the Central American independence. That's why in the first constitution in 1821 in Central America described that all the descendants of the African have to be free in the new Central American Republic, because the cooperation of the Black people who was living in Central America in that time, and he was part of the army to fight against the freedom. Same thing happened in the United States. You know, the Black people, African American, was part of the war, part of the war and the revolution and everything. In Central America, you don't learn that in the school. They don't teach us in the university, in the school, about the great contribution of the African descendants in Latin America to fight against independence. It's not only happening in Central America, it happened in South America as well. Countries like Colombia, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Ecuador, Brazil. There was a black people in front of the army.
And that happened everywhere because Africans were all over the place.
Yeah, no, they don't mention that in Honduras because in Honduras they don't talk about it. I just saw the movie of Francisco Morazan. They didn't mention Walumugu. That was his name. He was from Kusuna, I think. Walumugu. They call him Francisco Bulnes. They actually got Francisco Morazan couldn't say his name. He couldn't say Walumugu. He couldn't say it, so he gave him a name. I think it was Francisco Bulnes. That's the name he gave him. But if you go to Honduras, I think he has a statue. He has his name, Walumugu. He has a city called Francisco Bulnes in Honduras. But they don't talk about him in Honduran history. Everybody think it's just Francisco Morazan who did. Now he was like the second in command for Francisco Morazan.
Yes, definitely.
Wow.
I did my history. But yeah, you got anything else, or you want to cut it, or you know?
I think we're good, man. It's like, is there anything else you can tell us about the information you learned about the Garifuna connection to Mali? Is there anything we're missing? Anything else?
Yes, I think in my book I done a good relation between the Koisha, the Bambara people practice, and the Garinagu people, and there is a spiritual connection of the Garifuna religion, which is a Dugu, and the Dogon people from Mali. There is a village called Dogon people in Mali, and there is a lot of connection. Even the son of Dugu is most of the spiritual ceremony, the old spiritual ceremony that the Garinagu preserve until today, from long time ago, and that ceremony is not coming from St. Vincent at all. It's coming from long time ago. So I can find, and I've been talking with another spiritual leader as well. So they do recognize that in the son of the good and how the Garinagu people practice that ceremony is linked. It's linked to the Mali, to the Dogon country in Mali. Yeah.
Wow. Remember in Mali, there wasn't just one tribe, just like any other tribe in Africa. You had the Dogon, you had the there was different tribes there. And the Garifuna, there were different tribes in Mali. Same thing, like you say, in Kemet or Egypt. In Kemet, there was a lot of different tribes of Africans that lived in Kemet. Different, it wasn't just one particular tribe or just one particular people that lived there. It was a multitude of different Africans from different tribes. They all lived in Kemet. Same thing in the Mali Empire. It was different types of Africans that lived there in that particular island, in that town. So that's what
That's what's
up.
But yeah, man. So we get the books. Very sell katele ugunye.
Again, one more question is: Are you? When is the English version? Because I know your book it's in Spanish right now. When is the English version of your book going to be available?
Well, this one's on Amazon Prime. This book is amazing. The Insurrectional Resistance of the Garifuna Revolution, the Chosen People of Yuruman by Andoni Castillo Perez. This one's on Amazon Prime. You could buy that like right now. And I think the second one, he could talk about the second one. When is it coming out?
Yeah, the second one is coming next month.
Okay. Okay.
It's coming next month. It's a novel, and it's about 20 chapters. He talk about all the challenge that that the explorers made, how they arrived to the island of St. Vincent, how they survived, and the resistance to preserve their culture until the exile from the island of St. Vincent to Roatan, Honduras. It's amazing. It's amazing. I know you guys are gonna like it.
Yeah, I read this one already. This one is amazing. So I already read this book. I learned a lot from this book. A lot of things that I didn't know about who we are, and the link to people in Africa. You know, so I learned a lot from reading it. He basically breaks down everything from Africa to St. Vincent to Yurumen, who are leaders, from Joseph Satuyer, Barauda, Duvaye. He breaks down who these people were. And at the same time, like I said, that the thing that I liked that he said was that even though there was two people in that island, the British occupied one side and the Garifuna occupied the other side. They were always looking ways of try to free these guys, try to free the Africans. So it's not like we saw them there. Oh wow, there's African slave that we're gonna let them.
We don't care. We just gonna let that happen over there. You know what I mean? But they were always trying to help.
So they were always thinking about how can we help them as well. But every time a lot of the Africans escaped from the British, they went to where the Garifuna side was at, where they were at. We kept them. They stayed with us, and then we helped them, and that's what the British got upset, and that's what started the Cold War.
Mm-hmm. And that's what eventually led to the exile to Honduras, was because you know, that insurrection, that constant helping of enslaved Africans and everything, and that's what created the rift, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating.
Yeah, you couldn't leave. You couldn't have free Africans. You know, and again, like me, let's say me being a slave African, and I'm looking across and I see free Africans, and I'm like, how are they free and we are in chains? You know, it was going to start a revolt. So they all tried. Yep, they all tried to escape to try to go to where the Garifuna were to be free. You know what I'm saying? So that's how the Cold War somewhat started.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I admire what you're doing, brother, man. I think it's great. I think I also want to state again, can you state the sources of your information? Because you know, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you know, this guy just made this stuff up. Please, one more time, tell us where you got your information from.
Okay. Yeah. I believe we have to do documentary and show all the information. Another thing also, I have a lot of copy of the information. Maybe
no. Busete la subene haliege la badere su basage sun le luha subene giga haliege la badere basage sun information le bicho betido libuto lo giga hen giga que embetara mani yeah.
Yeah. There is a biography in the book. Is a scientist. Is a academic research. So darían que que las citas bibliográficas están allí en cada lida halegela nasaga reunión son catelira ni tida garudi.
De la Británica, tida que be museo. Yeah, a lot of his information comes from the enemy, comes from the people that held us captive, comes from the people that enslaved us, tried to enslave us, comes from the museum of the British, comes from the museum of French. All this information are there now. Those who want to go find those information, you could just go there and look for it. That's what always mind boggles me, right? They kept the truth for themselves in that museum. Again, same thing in with like, I guess with Egypt. If you want to know the true meaning of Egypt,
you gotta go to Europe. Yeah.
You got to go to Europe, because what happened when Alexander went there and took all the information and took it with him to the Vatican. All those informations are there. They kept the true information. You know what I'm saying? But us here in America and in Honduras, they feed us different lies and they don't tell us the truth. But they kept the truth for themselves.
Because they need to know. This is like, because they need to know the history, so they teach it the truth to themselves, and then they spread lies to Africans around the world. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, I found all the information in London Library. There is an old library here with so many information, and the British National Archive as well, and French National Archive. I have a lot of copies of those information, of those and trade agreement that our ancestor was signed in the island of St. Vincent. And
look at some of the treaty, still written the way it is written in his book.
Yeah, this is a order. This is an order by the British Empire. This is an order to destroy Garinagu people. It is an order from British Empire. I found all the information in British National Archive, and in my book there is the list of the biography that I searched to find out all the information, and it's an academic book. It's a scientist with describing different point of view from the chronicle, and how my analyze as a Garifuna writer, as a Garifuna historian, from the point of view of the Garifuna people, from the Garifuna vision. It's not point of view from the Western writer.
Right.
Yeah, that's the different one. Yeah.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your time, and thanks for the research that you've done and that you continue to do for your people. And I also think it's for all of us Africans, because it inspires me to learn more about African history as well. So thank you for the work you're doing, and keep it up, brother. It was good work.
All right, thank you. I believe if we my dream, brother, is to take the amazing information about the Garinagu people to be part of the movie. Just imagine, it's not just the Garinagu people, whole African in the Americas continent. To find out that, because according to the UNESCO, there was 10,000 languages and culture arrived to America continent. That means I'm talking about South America, Central America, North America, and the Caribbean. 10,000 languages. Only Brazil, 2,000 languages arrived to Brazil. United States arrived 1,500 language, 1,500 language arrived to United States, African language. That was destroyed. Nothing survived. In the Caribbean arrived 1,000 languages. Only Garifuna survived today. The question is why? So there is something else deep that we need to search about it, that we need to question about it, and it's gonna be good if we come together. We do the effort to bring this reality into movie, into Hollywood. I want to see it.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that, man, for sure.
Yeah. And that he basically answered my question, because I was going to ask him that, because Garifuna is the only language that survived in Central America. All the other languages gone. Nobody speaks it remember those Africans that went to Honduras. You know, only the Garifuna language survived. Well, we're not talking about the Indians that are already there. You know, the Lencas, or they still preserve them. He's talking about the Africans that went to like Brazil, all those other places that still speak their African language. Only Garifunas are the only one that survived. In America, nobody speaks their African language. Like you said, there was a lot of
you might have the Gullah tribe. You might have the Gullah tribe who preserves some aspects of the African way of life, but that's it.
Yes, yes.
Oh, their language.
Yeah, but that's it, man. You know, I mean, it's something that needs to be really investigated about the Garifuna culture and the people to, you know, how to learn about how you guys could still maintain your culture and your way of life after dealing with colonization, where so many African tribes lost it. So
exactly,
there definitely needs to be more investigation. You know, to me personally, I think the spiritual aspect of the way of life, I think, was embraced and held on to by the Garifuna a lot more. And that, to me, that's what I think had to have attributed to the strength to resist colonization, is that, you know, your spirituality, and you fought
definitely
with your ancestors more. And I think that's what allowed you guys to you know, have that strength to resist.
Definitely. Just imagine 200 years ago, 224 years ago, after exiling to Central America, we are the minority population in Central America. We don't got no power. We don't got no political power. We don't got no economic power. We don't got nothing, but we still survive. Our language still survive. Our culture still survive. Very strong. You know, 200 years later.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there is a big question right there. What's going on with those people? According to the Chronicle, I found some information in the Chronicle when they described that the Garinagu, they was Garinagu people were calling themselves as the chosen people of Yurume. The chosen one.
Yurume, that's St. Vincent?
Yes, okay. St. Vincent. Okay. Yurume is a Garifuna, but they calling themselves as a chosen one.
And that's in the article that I guess when the Europeans went towards them, right, in the island, they identify themselves to them. We're the chosen people of Yurume. We're the chosen people. You know, that's found out in the archives, because you know, back then they wrote everything. When we approached these people, they told us they were the chosen. That's what they told us. You know what I mean? So they wrote everything down and an archive, and they kept everything. The same thing that Columbus has an archive that you can go and read all the stuff he wrote when he went down. You can find all those things. They kept that stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool, man. I'm good. I definitely know we need to do another one. We do another one of these, and we could get more focused. But thanks for your time, man. This was great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Everybody get his book, man. It's on Amazon Prime. Get that book right there, man.
It's on Amazon Prime. The new book is coming out in 2 weeks, so on Amazon Prime, and I can't wait to read that one. But this book right here is amazing. Go buy it on Amazon, like right now.
Yeah. All right, Andoni, thanks for your time, man.
All right, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, brother.
All right then. Okay. Bye-bye.